Hi, this is Dan Sullivan. I'd like to welcome you to the Multiplier Mindset Podcast. On this special edition of Multiplier Mindset, we're talking to one of my very, very favorite entrepreneurs going back almost 30 years in Strategic Coach. And this is Lee Brower, who is a great entrepreneur in many, many areas of his life. But he's been one of our great associate coaches in Strategic Coach. And today we're going to talk about bigger future. And Lee is going to describe how it's only by having a bigger future that you have a clarity to identify a purpose that you can stay with constant energy. Lee knows the secret of personal growth, and that is asking yourself questions that you've never thought about before. I'm a huge advocate that questions are 100 times more important than answers, because answers, your brain looks at the answer and says, I already know that. But when you ask yourself a question that you've never thought about before, all of a sudden, all of your thoughts have to rearrange themselves, and it's the rearrangement of your thinking in response to a brand new question that actually gives you brand new ideas, brand new visions, and brand new plans.
Hi, I'm Lee Brower. Everything that I do, I believe in empowering leaders in families, in businesses, and in communities, and in that order. And so I have a company called Empowered Wealth, which is a global company that some people call me a global cultural artist. So that probably doesn't answer your question as exactly what I do, but we work with companies and families on how to elevate their decision making. You know, I'm often asked why I became an entrepreneur. You know, I think probably the same reason that most people say they become an entrepreneur, because they're looking for freedom. You know, when I was growing up, sitting in the classroom, I was the one that always looked at the teacher and said, no, I can do it better. There's a better way to do it. When they told me to be someplace at a certain time, I was the one that said, no, I don't want to be there at that time. I wanted control over what I was doing. I wanted to be responsible for what I was doing, and I was willing to take that responsibility. If it doesn't work, it's my fault. If it does work, I want to take the credit. So I want to be able to, for myself personally anyway, whether I share it or not, I wanted to be able to, for my inside personal being, my mental peace of mind, I wanted to know what it was. So I was looking for the freedom from those things so I could do the bigger picture of the things that I enjoy doing. Probably the greatest thing that has happened as a result of being a part of Strategic Coach, and when I say a part of Strategic Coach, that's exactly what I mean, because you're a part of a community. And in that community, early on, I decided that one of my objectives was that if I can leave each session of Strategic Coach asking a question that I've never asked before, then what would the result of that be? What would that look like? And I can tell you this, if you ask a question you've never asked before, your life will change, because you'll get answers that you've never had before. So knowing that, I've been in Strategic Coach now for 22 years. 22 years, every 90 days. You know, that's like being able to swim in a sea of positivity every 90 days. I'm so blessed, because I know that I've experienced many highs, many more highs and levels of achievement than a lot of people. Hey, but I've had my share of blows. We've had a son that we lost with cancer. We've had a business that struggled because of the crisis in 2007. And we've had other issues, but we had the tools and the mindset to be able to get through those and just come out of it shining. It's been great. People ask me, well, what questions do you ask yourself? Well, it depends. Every time I hear myself say I need to do something, I change it to the form of a question. So I need to take more free days, for example. All that does is compounds the problem, because then I look around me and I say, oh, there's a reason why I need to take more free days. My subconscious supports me always and only in saying, oh, here's another reason you need to take more free days, because you're so busy. Look at how busy you are. I'm in scarcity continually. I move that out of it and say, what small step can I take today that'll provide more freedom in my life? What small step can I take today that will give me more free days? What small step can I do today that will open up more doors for opportunity? And it's all about motion. In life, we put too many finish lines. When we set goals, we set them with finish lines. Why not set them with milestones? Why not be in progress all the time? And that comes by asking, what small step can I take today to stay in motion and to get there? People ask me all the time what advice I would give to entrepreneurs, and the first advice I would give is to make sure that you have a future that's bigger than your current business. So many times we try to make meaningful decisions in the present without knowing what our bigger future is. And once you know your bigger future, it empowers you to make meaningful decisions in the present. So bar none, you'll come out of here with a quest, a thirst, a hunger to identify, do you have a future that's actually bigger than your business? Where you start to look at your business as a platform to even greater greatness. And when you do that, then you can say, like if you're going to sell your business, for example, and you get into it and somebody's going to offer you $1 million more or $1 million less and you get caught up in the money, then when you get ready to pull the trigger, you don't know, gee, should I pull the trigger, not pull the trigger, and it all becomes money. But if you have a bigger purpose and you understand that bigger purpose, all you have to ask yourself is this going to help me get to that bigger purpose or not? You don't have to ask what's next or worry about it. You're in motion continually.
I love what Lee said about once you get clear about what your bigger purpose is in life, because once you do that, then you have to simplify everything you're doing right now going forward. So it's actually the bigger purpose that gives you the clarity to know that what you should do today, what you should do tomorrow. And it's this constant movement back and forth between your long-term purpose and your present clarity that actually propels you forward as an entrepreneur. Seems very simplistic, but what I've discovered is that simple always beats complex. I find that people with clarity are not confused in the way that other people are because of the complexity and complications in their life. And virtually everybody's complexity and complications comes from the fact that they don't have a bigger purpose, and therefore they don't have present clarity. Lee hits on an incredibly important point about how you get yourself out of a confusing present situation. And that is, you can't do it by looking at what's going on in the moment. You have to go forward in time and have a big purpose, a new, fresh purpose that sits out in time. It may be 3 months away, it may be a year away, but the moment that you get this purpose, then immediately the future comes back and it says, you don't need this kind of thinking, you don't have to be thinking about this, you don't have to be worried about that. Just focus on these opportunities, just focus on which capabilities are going to move you forward over the next 24 hours. And that's the secret. You can't figure out in the complexity and confusion of the present anything. It'll simply get you into greater complication. But by going out, escaping from the present, going out into the future with your imagination, then all of a sudden you say, well, that's a much better use of my time and my energy and my abilities. And immediately you come back and you clean house, you reorder things, you organize better, you simplify, and that's how we move forward. One really great question to ask yourself to clarify who you are right now as an entrepreneur and where the best place to go is to ask yourself, if tonight I was transported to a completely different city and the only thing that I could take with me overnight was my best experiences, successful experiences, the best relationships I've ever formed in the past, and what my unique abilities are. And then say, if I had to start from scratch in a brand new place tomorrow, how would I go about organizing myself? If you spend a half hour thinking this through and just come up with an enormous number of really, really interesting ideas on how you would start over again, then you can start over again right now where you are. You don't have to be transported to another city. You just have to be transformed to a different mindset from the one you had yesterday. And this simple process of asking yourself a question which catches you by surprise, and then just the answers you come up with immediately identifies how you can simplify your present situation. And this is totally what Lee's talking about, of having a bigger purpose. You will come out of that half hour of thinking about this question with an entire new purpose and with entirely new clarity. Here's a rule. Simple always beats complex. So if you're in a situation where a conversation is going in a very complicated and complex way, or there's activities that seem very, very complicated, You cannot solve complexity with greater complexity. You can only solve complexity by just focusing on one simple thing where all your energies can be focused and everybody else's energy can be focused, and say, okay, here's a simple thing we're going to focus on for the next 24 hours, for the next 7 days. This is what we're going to focus on. And if you just focus in that way and follow through, by the end of the 24 hours or by the end of the week, all the complexity you were feeling back then has disappeared. Your brain just wants simplicity. The brain isn't interested in complexity. You can't figure out anything by dealing with complexity. So this is why entrepreneurs are so important in this world, because in complex situations in every area of life, it's entrepreneurs who come up with a simple, new, fresh, energizing way forward. If you want to get a real handle on what Lee is talking about in this special podcast of Multiplier Mindset, just go to abcmodel.coach.